Welcome to Wear Your Cape to Work, a podcast hosted by Project Insight. We believe that project and program managers are the real superheroes of every organization. They wear their capes to work every day, and we want to celebrate them. Our guests on the podcast are project professionals who have poured their superpowers into driving successful projects across different industries. We want you to hear their stories so you can be inspired to wear your own cape to work. My guest on the podcast today is Kristina Curtiss. She's the VP of Communications at PMI San Diego, and she's had a really interesting career path that started at Home Depot, led through construction project management, and ultimately healthcare project management. In each of those situations, someone recognized the superpowers that she possessed and asked her to step into a new and more engaging role as a project management professional. She has her PMP. She's now a consultant in the project management sector. She's also writing a book called Level Up Your Leadership. I think you'll enjoy hearing from her about her business acumen, about the way she got to project management, and about how she's now helping to train up leaders to see those superpowers in other PMPs and elevate them to greatness. Thanks for joining us today, Kristina.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, we are too. We have been having superhuman project managers on our podcast for several weeks now. And obviously we've titled it Wear Your Cape to Work because we think that project and program and, program director managers are the superheroes of the organization. They really keep things cohesive, tied together, on track, business initiatives in place. And so we're really glad to have you here to share some of your superpowers with our audience today. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came to project management? I know you were not a project manager to start out with, but the story is really good. So I want you to share it from your own experience because it's really a neat story.
Thanks. Yeah. So when I was just out of high school, didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I went to community college because I'm like, I'm not going to pay a lot of money for college, which I just didn't know what my direction was going to be. While I was in college, I was working at Home Depot, and I worked there for like 6 or 7 years, just learning about different things in the construction industry. Came across a general contractor, and he was opening a an office, and he said, "I'd like you to come work for me because I think you'd be great as an office manager." So I was
Nice.
like, okay, I could do office management. So I went down, interviewed, got hired, became an office manager. And the next thing I knew, he was handing me different kinds of things to do, um,
Mm-hmm.
more and more responsibility, and just kind of seeing how I was going to handle things, right? And
Right,
then
right.
I found myself running construction projects. So,
Mm-hmm.
so that was it was really interesting to me that I just kind of like went into it, from an office manager position, which I never had thought about being a project manager, or
Okay.
running a
Yep.
project, you know?
Right. Well, maybe for our audience, there are office managers listening, and I think that that's probably a common feeling. Like, am I typecast to this role, this
Hmm.
administrative person? But there's so many similarities between an office manager and the skills, the strong skills that
Yeah.
are needed by a project manager. Can you maybe name a few of those skills that are pretty parallel that kind of translate?
Time management.
Mm,
Time management, number one. Number two, effective communication,
hmm.
written and oral communication, right?
Right.
And just being able to order things, put things in
Hmm.
logical order or order
Right.
of operations. Like if we were talking about a
Right.
math project or whatever, construction's kind of the same thing. You can't,
Mm,
do your walls without a foundation. So,
right.
just yeah, just putting everything in order and being able to communicate effectively.
Yeah, and I think of efficiencies too, right? This person's an organized human being, and
Hmm.
they see a very big organizational picture about what other things need to be addressed in order for these things to be executed in the right order, like you said.
Right, right.
Yeah.
It's funny because I had some life happen, and I ended up moving from where I was living at the time down to San Diego.
Oh,
So I was not in, I was kind of in transition at the time. Um, And my mom said, "Why don't you just try and get a job at Scripps Health?" I was like,
Oh,
"I don't
wow.
know anything about healthcare. I
Yeah,
know
go, mom.
construction."
Right.
Because my mom had worked there for
Oh,
many
she did. Okay.
years. Yeah, yeah. So she's like, just try, just get an entry. So I
Yeah,
decided, okay,
just jump.
what can I, what do I have to lose? Like right now, I don't have a job. So
Right.
so I ended up being getting in an entry level position, scheduling for a cardiologist.
Oh,
That's
wow.
how I started my career at Scripps, and then I
Okay.
just kept looking for new
Mm,
opportunities, and I came across and ended up in administration. So I worked with the CEO, and
nice.
then the CIO had an opening as an admin for the CIO. So I was like,
Wow.
okay, office stuff. I kind of have the experience there. I can
Yes.
I can do a calendar, no biggie. So I connected. I applied for the position. I got the role.
Okay.
I got the position. And then we had a little bit of a transition between the old CIO and a new CIO. At the same
Mm-hmm.
time, we were doing this huge initiative
Oh,
implementing Epic, the electronic health record
yep.
um, platform, to all of the hospitals and clinics. Um, when I was working for the new CIO, he said, "I have a position for you, and I think you'll be wonderful for it." And I was like,
Nice.
"Okay, what's this position?" He says, "I think you could be a project manager, an IT project manager." I'm
Oh,
like,
wow. You're like, that's very different.
it was very,
Yeah.
very different. And
Mm-hmm.
I expressed my, concerns or my hesitation. I had a very open rapport with the CIO, and he
Oh,
said,
good.
You project manage me every day.
That's awesome.
Your admin work, what you're doing, is
Mm-hmm.
project management. You're
Right.
project managing me every day. You're
Yeah.
getting me where I need to go. You're understanding what I need to do and
Mm-hmm.
communicating it. And he just really gave me that confidence that, okay, I'll try it. I'll try it.
Right. Yeah, it's brave. That's first of all, that's brave of you. So we're applauding you. I know the audience is
Thank
like,
you.
wow, that's a big jump. You go from administrative work for a CIO, right? So there's some connection to the
Yeah.
IT, to that security, to computing, but you're not a developer. And we had another podcast prior where we talked to Sri, she's in Colorado, and she talked about how she started in IT and then went to project management. So you may bring your strengths for the administrative work, or you may bring your strengths for the IT, but landing somewhere where you can shine that
Yeah.
organization, that time management, that prioritization, the efficiency skills. That's cool. It probably wasn't hard to miss that you were this type of person. I mean, someone saw that in you, the contractor saw it in you at Home Depot, and you landed that role. And then this person saw it in you, and you've moved into this IT project management
Yeah.
situation. That's
Yes.
pretty cool.
My first project was, let me rewind. Okay, my first project as that IT project manager was actually a facilities project where we were
Oh,
relocating
oh,
all
wow.
of, we were relocating we had the ITs were on specific locations.
Oh,
So
okay.
we were relocating everybody to one new building. And
Oh, wow.
because I had the construction background, they
Oh,
thought,
yeah.
let's give her something. Let's give her something that's going to kind of fit. So that was my open door into into
Mm-hmm.
IT,
Yep.
different level. Like I wasn't building from foundation to building. I was transitioning, so I had to understand all the hardware and the mapping and the, where
Right.
everything went. So,
Okay. Yeah. So for our audience, let's put the magnitude of this, right? You've got, I don't, how many campuses did you have at that
oh,
time?
so we had like 28, I want to say
Yeah.
28, getting all of that aligned and then into a kind of a smaller space
Oh,
than
I see.
what everybody was used to. They were used to having their own, big offices on
Right.
different campuses. And now it was like, okay, it's kind of a cube farm situation.
More
And
consolidated. It's a
yeah.
smaller space. So there probably was some resistance too, I'm guessing.
hmm Yeah,
Yeah.
there was a little bit of resistance, but the change management, it really is key, right?
Right.
Get your stakeholders involved, check in on them early and often, I like to say. Make
Hmm.
sure that you understand what their needs are, because everybody has specific needs and not everybody wants to change. Maybe their drive is further. Maybe, so they're going to be stuck in
Right.
traffic. So there's other things that they're
Right.
facing, and just being
Right.
understanding of it and allowing them the space to speak about it.
Yep. And, sometimes there's not something to be done about it, but having that, you're having emotional intelligence, being able to step into someone else's shoes and kind of try on what they might be feeling, whether it's something operationally or physical location, like you said, like now my commute is going to cost me more money to drive. It's going to take
Yeah.
longer. It's going to cost me more time. So recognizing those things, but even the equipment upgrade that you're talking about, you're moving older equipment, and a project management professional typically wants to, like, let's just button up all these details, but now someone might jump in and say, hey, while we're doing this, can we also upgrade all the such and such?
Yeah.
And now that's a little pivot that you have, an initiative change.
Yeah, and I think the big part about those kind of pivots are, you want to stay away from scope creep.
Oh,
So
right.
if your scope, if people are asking for things, and being very demanding, then obviously you want to hear what they have to say, but also you need to get the approval to do so from your upper
Right.
management. So you have to be able to translate the need or the ask to the upper management.
When we talked once before, I think I recognize that one of your superpowers is the project manager as translator, where you're taking, okay, this is what's happening. Let me translate it into your framework. And this is what's happening with you. Let me translate it to this project, or
Hmm.
even the language of the projects between teams. Tell us a little bit more about how project managers translate.
So after my facilities project and moving everybody, we got all into the one building and we're great, getting going. The next project that they gave me was organizational readiness for the Epic EHR, electronic health record.
Oh yeah, well
So,
hold on one second. Let's put magnitude on this too. Okay, you have an entire system that the whole hospital, all these clinics are using to, they're writing down records, they're keeping notes about someone's appointment, they're marking what the appointment was all about, and that was happening not with the Epic health record system. And
oh
now,
no, where we're
yeah,
all paper records.
right. Paper, right? So all these doctor notes, everything that happens around any patient, their insurance, their address, it's all on paper. And now you're being asked to implement a healthcare record system across all of those locations. That's a lot of change for people. How did you
A
even get started
lot
with
of
that? It's huge.
change. Yeah, so we really took it in phases, and we kind of put a theme around it to get buy-in.
That's cool.
And yeah. So we did it in phases. Leadership made the decisions of which hospitals were going to go first, and
Okay.
that kind of thing. But the translation really came in with the change management or the organizational readiness piece, right?
Mm.
So you're thinking about these physicians who have been doing things one way, like forever, right?
Yes.
This is the way we do it. This is the way we've always done it. There,
Right.
there are a handful of people that were more tech savvy, or physicians that were more tech savvy, but
Mm. Hmm.
also you have the IT people who speak their own kind of language, right? So we all know
Hmm.
physicians have their own language, their own speak.
Right.
IT people have their own language, their own speak, their own mannerisms.
Right.
Engineers, same thing, right? So
Yeah.
the translation piece had came in when I had to understand what IT was saying in order to take it back to the physicians, and understand what the physicians were saying in order
Yes.
for the IT folks to adequately customize the system, that we were building to support these physicians, right?
Yes, that's amazing. I actually am sitting here thinking about, we have, you know, foreign languages, or, languages you can take in school. Maybe they should offer, here's how you speak IT, here's how you speak
Exactly.
physician, here's how you speak engineer. You're going to take that class instead of Spanish, or, whatever, other Latin or something like that. That's funny. But you are speaking language. Let's transition to speaking the language of other people. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about emotional intelligence and your work there, and how you're being a translator all those years, not just at Scripps, but then later on at Kaiser, you're doing more translation. Did that inform this emotional intelligence exploration that you took?
Absolutely. Actually, one of the leadership encouraged us all to read a book called Emotional Intelligence 2.0.
Okay.
But Emotional Intelligence 2.0 actually kind of opened my eyes that I naturally had an ability to do this.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but putting the guardrails around it,
Mm.
right? And
Yep.
it helped, and putting it into buckets helped me understand and kind of formulate um, a way for me to increase my emotional intelligence, increase
Mm.
my translation abilities, right?
Yeah. Right,
Um,
right.
and I really liked the Emotional Intelligence 2.0 because it has a an assessment in the book, um,
Okay.
like a
Oh, so
code
you
to
can
an
assess
assessment.
yourself. You kind of
hmm
self-assess. Okay, cool.
So I love this feature because, as we travel through our lives, we always come up to a different point in our life. We're not always the same. So I
Yes.
like to take the Emotional Intelligence 2.0, the quiz or the assessment, um, maybe once a year so I can see how I'm
Wow.
showing up.
That's
Be-
cool.
yeah, because like I said, as you go through your life, different things impact you, your experiences,
Totally.
and being able to do that assessment and say, okay, where was I? Where am I now?
Yeah.
What
Mm-hmm.
could I do better at? Right?
Right.
To me, I'm constantly trying to improve how I show up for every relationship that I'm in. And emotional intelligence not only does that in the workplace, but it's helped me a lot with my kids too. So.
Yeah, that's helping you with your kids. Actually, Sri on that episode I referred to, the Cutting Through the Chaos episode, she talked about it too, this learning this emotional intelligence. All of a sudden, it's not just good for you for work and your relationships at work, but it's helping you in your relationships at home,
hmm
friendships. All of us could use some emotional intelligence. I like how you've taken it further and you're doing this annually. That's pretty impressive, self-development. So good for you. And
Thank
maybe our
you.
listeners can take a stab at it too, because it seems like it's not that big of a lift to look at the book, take an assessment, see how you're doing.
It's really not that big of a lift, and I actually did a little more research. Fun fact. I'm just going to throw out a
Yeah.
fun fact. The concept of emotional intelligence came about in the 70s when they were studying children with autism, and they couldn't really figure out like why are they not showing up socially as the norm, or mainstream. And so emotional intelligence was kind of born out of that research.
Okay. That's neat. And so, what are you doing with the emotional intelligence piece now? Are you using that in your consulting? You've done some writing. How did
Yes,
you embrace that and move forward with that?
yes. So I was approached by a publisher who was putting together a book of these inspirational stories, and the book's called Unstoppable: The Rise of Female Global Leaders.
Oh, cool.
And I had to like take the first pillar of emotional intelligence, which is self-awareness, and go, how does that fit me? Like, I never really considered myself, global leader, female global
Right.
leader. I don't see myself that way because I
Right.
always just show up and I try and be the
Yep.
best me. But
Mm-hmm.
when I was approached, got the inspiration for writing, and I thought, if I could bucket what I've learned about leadership through my experience and through my own, self education,
Mm.
and align it with emotional intelligence, there are definite dependencies
Mm-hmm.
one for the other, right?
Yeah.
I started writing a book called Level Up Your Leadership.
Okay.
And basically, it's how to integrate your emotional intelligence to make you a better leader.
Nice.
And it's super exciting. The way I think about it is I actually start the book with a riddle. What is
Okay.
one thing that every has in common, but that without that one thing, every business would fail?
One thing every business has in common, and without that thing,
That
every business would fail. Is it leaders?
people.
People. Yeah. Okay. I got it. Nice.
People, right?
Yeah.
Because
You don't necessarily need a leader. You just need people to be part of it. Gotcha.
well, you have people that create a demand for a product,
Right.
right? You
Mm-hmm.
have people that fulfill the demand for the product. You have
Mm-hmm.
the people who had the idea for the product,
Right.
right? Without any one of those, a business won't be successful,
Sure.
right? So in my experience, leaning in on leaders, leaning in on the emotional intelligence in order to really hear and accommodate all the people that are involved.
Yep.
Um, it's the only way to be successful.
And it's so great to see that in action, right? I mean, how many posts do you see on LinkedIn or other channels where it's how to be a better leader? These we love our leader here at this company. I didn't enjoy my leadership at this other company. Usually the why is exactly what you're talking about. They could hear me, they could see my situation, they could see the whole scope of the situation,
Hmm.
and be able to take some action on that. That's great. We'll drop your publication in the chat show notes as well. That
Okay,
is
great.
great. Yeah, I'd love to have that there for our audience. Now, you've had some great leaders in your career path. We heard about them, the fellow at Home Depot coming into this leader, the CIO leader. I'm sure there's others. You also now are working as the VP of communications for the PMI San Diego chapter. And your team is a terrific team. And we'll drop a little note
Thank
about how to
you.
get in touch with the PMI SD if you're in that area. But you have great leadership there too, and you're one of them. And then a good friend of yours, Miki Nakamura, is also a part of that chapter.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about how you guys found each other and how you ended up volunteering at PMISD also together.
So one of the other pillars of emotional intelligence is relationship management.
Oh, sure.
Um, and so Mickey and I met in at Scripps, and I actually reported to Mickey for a while
Okay.
in that whole EHR and transitioning people from from what 28 locations to
Yes.
one
So
location.
you guys met at Scripps.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah, we both worked at Scripps Health, and while we're working there, every once in a while, I tend to get a little negative. And I
Who
would go to
doesn't?
Mickey. I would go to Mickey. I'm like, this guy over here, he's making so much
Mm-hmm.
more money than I am.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand how come I'm doing the same thing he's doing just because I'm new. I'm getting the same, if not better results, but I'm making less.
Yep.
Like, and I know there's the whole women are make a third less than men. Um, I get that, but despite that, I'm like, what else can I do? Because the women
Sure.
versus men, there's not a whole lot I could do about that, right?
Right, right.
What do I have within myself that I could do? And Mickey kept saying, you should get your PMP. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready
Nice.
for that just yet. And, annual review times comes around and he says, you should get your PMP. And I'm like, okay, how many times do you have to tell me, Mickey, before I actually listen? Um, so I did. I went back and
Okay.
I studied and I got my PMP. And then after I got my PMP, I said, okay, I got my PMP. Mickey had transitioned to some place else. I'm not sure where he went after Scripps, but he had moved out, and my manager at that time told me, we can't pay you what
Oh,
you should be paid to
oh,
get
sure.
now that you have your PMP. We just can't. We're a smaller
Okay.
healthcare organization. We don't have it in our
Sure.
budget. And she looked at me and she says, why are you still here? You're a single
Oh,
mom
she
with two
recognized the
kids.
talent. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you're a single mom with two kids. Why would you
Mm-hmm.
stay here if we can't pay
Yeah.
you what you need to be paid?
Right, right,
And I was like, note to self.
right.
And that's when I went looking, and I came across a position at Kaiser, and I
Nice.
applied for it, and I increased my income by 33%.
Wow, that's excellent.
Yeah.
You have
So
a
if you're
really,
questioning, if you're
yeah.
questioning whether you should get your PMP, yes, yes, please do. It's
Well, and
worth
the
it.
theme continues, right? You're talking about emotional intelligence as leaders, but I'm seeing something that's repeated in your career path
Mhm.
where a leader just recognizes the talents of the people on their team. Like just
Yeah.
recognize them, shine a spotlight on them, elevate them, encourage them to grow, into those other certifications or more acumen, whatever the case might be. And now someone even encouraging you, that's brave as a leader to say, hey, this isn't really the place for you. You could do
Yeah.
more in another place. That's pretty amazing that you had
Yeah.
those kind of connections.
Yeah. I much appreciate those things, and being able to hear them, right?
Oh, yes. You mean hearing them from other people,
Hearing
that's
them from
so
other
encouraging.
people, right? But also not just passing it off as a comment.
Yes. Yeah, really
Like,
being able to take it seriously. It wasn't flattery. Do your self-assessment. Is this person
yeah,
giving me the right realistic feedback? Yes. And now it's a
exactly.
compliment, and I can think this way about myself and not have imposter syndrome. What I thought I
Hmm.
was doing really well, someone else named it. When someone else calls that out and names that in you, it really does, sear it into your mind. Like, this is who I am. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Okay, I'm going to spin off quick because this
okay.
question, I'm fascinated to just chew on it. Do you think people are born with these skills and talents? They grow them? Like, was there zero? Did they develop? Are they developed? Do they pop out of nowhere? Were they born with them? How does it work?
The classic nature versus nurture question,
Yes.
right? I think it's both. I think both are equally important.
Yeah.
I don't think at the point that I always had great not project problem solving skills, right? Um,
Right.
even at a young age. And so that's great, but if you don't have direction, or you don't have those moments in life where you're questioning, okay, what do I do with this? Where do I go with this? Then you just don't know. If you don't, and you don't have the experiences, right? If you're never
Right.
open up to experiences where you can, really dive in and use those problem solving skills, then you really don't have the opportunity to know what you could or couldn't do.
Yeah, so you might be born with it. It is you do have the capabilities, but unless you subject yourself to the right sunlight and the right,
Hmm.
rainwater and the right circumstances, they don't flourish or they don't come out as much. You're not seeing that.
Yeah.
I heard once that, I'm not sure if this totally relates, but when we cry, our eyes become reddened, right? But they also become the brightest that they ever are, And
Yeah.
so this idea of sometimes it's the challenges and the bumpy paths that we have to be on that really highlight our strengths. And you certainly know yours. And
Hmm.
and now you're in a position where you're helping consult, other people,
Yeah.
whether it's doing coaching or doing consulting for leaders. And are you using that same idea of shining that light or magnifying that for someone, calling it out?
I am. I had at Kaiser, I've done mentoring. I've also taken on an intern, and helped an intern for their summer internship. And then outside of Kaiser, I speak with managers about what is emotional intelligence and how to
Nice.
implement it. I with my PMI work, it's just become so fulfilling. I
Nice.
laugh about it because I am now an empty nester. My children have left me, and I was bored. I was bored,
Bored.
right?
I'm
I
bored.
was bored. I'm like, what am I
Yeah.
gonna do? So I decided to fill my life with PMI.
Nice.
So it's been very fulfilling for me, because when I first came on to as VP of Communications in 2024, there was literally one person
Yep.
on the team doing
You
all the
mentioned
work,
that. So lots.
and just sustaining, keeping the doors open and the
Right.
emails going, and so I realized I needed a team, because one person can't do all of the work. And so I started building a team, and
Nice.
last year by December, I had a team of 5
Wow.
that directly reported to me, and I had 2 that indirectly reported to me. As of today, I have a team of almost 12 now.
Wow,
Uh,
that's huge for a PMI chapter. For those of you listening, who are part of PMI chapters, think about it. Are your chapters big or little? There's clearly a larger chapter in Southern California, and you've got all of those people, 12 people reporting to you. And I bet it's a glued, well ironed out team? Everybody's
You
working
know,
together.
we definitely, every piece, every body of work or every process has room for improvement, right?
Sure.
The thing that has allowed our team to be so successful is the people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we got everybody onboarded, we got them, doing their tasks, and we're all volunteers. We don't get
Yeah.
paid, and
Right.
our chapter, we have 2,400 members ish, a
Wow.
little bit
That's
more, a little
huge.
bit less, right? So there's a lot of work that goes into everything surrounded with the PMI, and especially with our local chapter because we are so huge.
Right.
So I tried to really understand what each person on my team brings to the table. It's like a basketball
Mm-hmm.
team. You have your point
Right.
guard, you have your post player, and a football team too. You have your linebacker, you
Right.
have your kicker,
Right.
you know. Everybody brings a different talent or skill set to the
Mm-hmm.
table. But one thing that my every team member has on my team is communication. They are amazing at communicating.
That's cool. Well, you're on a communications team. I mean, you are the VP of communications. They should have some skills and some level up. How can our audience get connected to some of the ways that you are, mentoring people? If someone was interested in, Kristina, could you mentor me in organizational readiness or change management or
Yeah.
leadership or, emotional intelligence? They can connect with you in your consulting company.
Yes. You can email me at chrishappens@gmail. So
I'll,
KRIS
I'll
happens
put
at
that in the
Gmail.
show notes. Great. We'll get that out there. Connect with you on
um,
LinkedIn, maybe.
Connect with me on LinkedIn for sure. And yeah, I'd be happy to help. Um,
Yeah, I think it's very comforting to watch someone come from, a background where they weren't even expecting to be a project manager, and all of their strengths, have been grown over this time. And it's clear, where you've come and been in these huge healthcare systems and helped with very big changes, that you have the experience, but you came from a place of, I didn't have any experience, right? And so it's helps people to feel comfortable you're very approachable,
Thank
and
you.
to get some assistance if they're facing those too, facing it for the first time or facing it for the second or third or 10th time. It's always good to have someone support, with how to do leadership better, how to do work better, how to do this change better. It's really hard, I think, for people to get their head around just how big the changes are that some of our project management professionals are being asked to
Yeah.
manage. It's incredible.
Yeah. Especially with AI. When you say that, I think about AI, right? And a lot of people are afraid of AI.
Right.
They don't know about it. They don't know what they don't know. But my recommendation is embrace it, learn about
Nice.
it. It's not going away. And if you're in
Right.
on the forefront of that AI revolution, where could you be in 5 years from now? Where could you
Right.
be in 10 years from now?
Right. Well, that's
So
probably why you guys have such a great chapter too. It's like, let's not be afraid of change. It's going to happen. Let's learn together. Let's link arms. Let's band together. Let's support one another so we feel like a united learning group and knowledge group, and we can all move
absolutely.
forward and stay relevant and do those things. Well, we just want to
Absolutely.
say thank you for being here on the show. I think that your superpowers for relationships and time management and organizational change and people, understanding people emotionally, intelligently, are so obvious. So thank you for joining us and sharing your story. I think others will be encouraged and take new steps of aspiration.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And on the horizon, I'm level up your leadership and master classes to go along with those. And I look forward to seeing what else Project Insight does too. Super
Yeah,
excited.
we're excited too. We just really at this juncture just want to support project management professionals. 2025 is a year where we're growing our software to support not just the project management level, but the program and portfolio level. So we're coming into this great new space where if you need to manage projects, these large ones like Kristina was doing, and there's many programs or a whole portfolio of projects, our software is going to be able to do that. So you can have that high level bird's eye view and share that with your C-suite and stakeholders to keep things moving on forward. So we're excited about
Well,
it. We just love making that available to you.
yeah, so you are a translation tool.
Yes, exactly. It's a tool for translating between teams and also a visibility tool, right? It's hard to
Mm-hmm.
capture all of that unless you have, someone at the helm. Again, it
Mm-hmm.
goes back to we can't give visibility if we don't have people. So the people do have to, report about their work, and the project managers do have to organize the work. But to have a tool that helps that work be visible for better decisions, that's our goal,
Yeah.
2025. So. Yeah. Well, thank you again. We're going to put your book in the show notes. We'll put the classes, the consulting, how to get to you on LinkedIn, and I'm sure that people will be interested to get all of those details. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been so lovely talking to you today.
Nice. Thanks. Thank you for joining us today on the Wear Your Cape to Work podcast, hosted by Project Insight. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, follow, or leave us a comment. If you subscribe to our YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or other favorite podcast channels, you'll receive notifications of all of our new episodes. We'd also love it if you would share Wear Your Cape to Work with your network of PMPs or anyone else who might enjoy the show. Project Insight is an online project and portfolio management software that helps companies connect project data from across all of their teams and software tools so that they can make confident decisions about their business. Our website is projectinsight.com, and there you can find many resources for project professionals, including free PDU webinars, as well as a place to register for a demonstration or a consultation with one of our success teams. Thank you once again for joining today's conversation, and most importantly, thanks for wearing your cape to work.